It's Wednesday, September 16th, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Oh, my Lord. Last night was Lollapalooza. It was just a lie fest. Last night was not an ABC town hall. It was an absolute lie fest. It is perfect for our Trump Lives Matter segment. We're going to break down all the lies. I think the only thing that probably was truthful last night was when they mentioned his name. Also, Donald Trump talked about a herd mentality. I think he meant herd immunity. We have an infectious disease specialist to explain what that means and why he's an idiot. Charlamagne the God will join us for our Tech Talk segment sponsored by Seek.com to talk about his Black Effect Podcast Network in partnership with iHeartRadio. Also, a crazy-ass white man in London got knocked the hell out running up against three brothers. Y'all, didn't end well. One punch. Also, a new round of anti-Trump ads to show you. Plus, we remember jazz critic Stanley Couch, who passed away. And, folks, the mayor of Rochester bounces the black police chief because they tried to hide information about the death of the black mentally disturbed man. We'll give you those details. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
All right, all of you parents out there, how many of y'all have had this look when your kids start talking? This is the look that you make when you know your kids lying their ass off. And they just keep lying, and this is how you keep looking. And in your mind, you like, at some point, are these fools gonna stop lying? That's exactly how I looked last night for 2 hours at the ABC News Town Hall in Pennsylvania with Donald Trump. Roll it! Y'all, it took place at National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. 90-minute town hall special. Uncommitted voters had the opportunity to ask Donald Trump their questions on issues ranging from coronavirus pandemic, economic recovery, protests, and racial injustice. Okay? So that's what took place. George Stephanopoulos was the moderator. I feel for the man, George Stephanopoulos, because the lies were coming so fast and furious, I thought Ving Rhames was going to walk in at any time. I thought the whole cast, Tyrese, I thought everybody, Michelle Rodriguez, I thought they all were going to walk in because I'm like, how much faster can these lies go? Like, really? Can they just keep going? So let's just deconstruct all the lies. Black woman with a pre-existing health condition asked Donald Trump what are his plans to protect people like her. Roll it.
Mr. President, I was born with a disease called sarcoidosis. And from the day I was born, I was considered uninsurable. That disease started in my skin, moved to my eyes, into my optic nerves, and when I went to graduate school, into my brain. When it hit my brain, I was automatically eligible for disability for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I chose instead to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, and become a professor.
It's great.
It is great, except I still have similar health care problems. It costs me, with co-pays, I'm still paying almost $7,000 a year in addition to the co-pay. And should pre-existing conditions, which Obamacare brought to fruition, be removed?
No.
Please stop and let me finish my question, sir. Should that be removed within a 36 to 72 hour period without my medication, I will be dead. And I want to know what it is that you're going to do to assure that people like me who work hard, we do everything we're supposed to do, can stay insured. It's not my fault that I was born with this disease. It's not my fault that I'm a black woman and in the medical community I'm minimized and not taken seriously. I want to know what you are going to do about that.
So, first of all, I hope you are taken seriously. I hope you are. And we are not going to hurt anything having to do with pre-existing conditions. We're not going to hurt pre-existing conditions. And, in fact, just the opposite. If you look at what they want to do, where they have socialized medicine, they will get rid of pre-existing conditions. If they go into Medicare for All, which is socialized medicine, and you can forget about your doctors and your plans, just like you could forget under President Obama. He said you can have your doctor, you can have your plan, and that turned out to be a lie. Obamacare is too expensive, the premiums are too high, it's a total disaster. You're going to have new health care, and the pre-existing condition aspect of it will always be in my plan, and I've said that loud and clear.
But you haven't come up with it.
And we got rid of the individual mandate, which essentially ended Obamacare.
Y'all, this fool actually said that Biden-Harris wants to end pre-existing conditions. Y'all, that's the most important part of the Affordable Care Act that Joe Biden was a part of when he was Obama's vice president. So how in the hell is the guy who helped create the bill now want to end the very thing that's in the bill? That's a damn lie. That's a lie. Donald Trump said, no, we don't want to get rid of that. But right now, as George Stephanopoulos said, you're at the Supreme Court right now trying to completely get rid of the Affordable Care Act. That's what he said. That's what Donald Trump said, y'all. It's unbelievable when you look at what this dude is doing. Constantly trying to weaken protections of the Affordable Care Act. Wants to get rid of it completely. He did not essentially end Obamacare, as he stated. The Affordable Care Act still exists. It still exists. Trump also suggested that Biden agreed to adopt what he called socialized health care advocated by Senator Bernie Sanders. No, he didn't. He actually rejected that. Roll it.
But when you say that Biden doesn't want to do it, everybody else does. Bernie does. He agreed to the manifesto, as I call it. The agreement with Bernie is that you're going to go to socialized medicine.
He ran against
If you go to
Medicare
socialized medicine, well, he agreed.
Fact. Biden does endorse the public option to allow people to opt in to a Medicare-like government insurance plan. But he has not agreed to anything, and he has spoken against Medicare for All, which Senator Bernie Sanders supports. Biden and Sanders went at this to the Democratic primary. So how in the world has he agreed to something that he was absolutely against? That lie completely out the window. A man who voted for Donald Trump and considers himself a conservative, pro-life and diabetic, asked Trump, why did he throw vulnerable people under the bus? He felt Trump was doing a great job at responding to the pandemic until around May 1st. Again, Donald Trump lies.
We supplied governors, including this state, with equipment like nobody's ever gotten. We were short on ventilators because the cupboards were bare when we took it over. And we're now making thousands of ventilators a month, many thousands, and we're sending them. We don't need them in our country anymore. Not one person that needed a ventilator didn't get a ventilator. Everybody got a ventilator. And they're very complex, they're very hard to make, but we're making out tens of thousands a month and sending them to other countries who are in dire need of them. So I feel that we've done a tremendous job, actually.
Donald Trump claimed that the cupboards were empty of ventilators when he took office is an absolute lie. There were 16,000 ventilators available in the government stockpile when he took office. A spokesperson for the Department of Health and Human Services confirmed in late June that there had been about 19,000 ventilators in the national stockpile for years. 16,660 of the ventilators were ready for immediate use in March of 2020. That, folks, was an absolute lie. George Stephanopoulos asked Donald Trump if he made the wrong decision in praising the president of China early on during the coronavirus pandemic.
Misjudge President Xi. I don't think I did. We just finished a trade deal. We just had the largest order of corn in the history of our country last week, the largest order of soybeans, largest order of beef, because they know I'm very unhappy. They know. But you said he was doing a good job, and now you're blaming China. No, I didn't say one way or the other. I'm not saying one way or the other. At the beginning, before anybody knew what it was, I spoke with President Xi, and he said, we are doing it well, we are having it under control, and I was very open with that. He told me that it was under control, that everything was, and it turned out to be not true, because it wasn't under control. It went all over the world, 188 countries. So I didn't say anything bad about President Xi initially, because nobody knew much about the disease.
Nobody knew much about the disease. That is a damn lie. His own intelligence told him about it. Donald Trump repeatedly praised China's president. CNN identified at least 37 separate instances since January where Donald Trump praised China. Pull it up. January 24th. China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. Really? But you said you didn't. You didn't praise him. That looks like praise. John Bolton said the reason he didn't is because he was so desperate to complete the trade deal, he did not want to criticize China. Donald Trump lied again. Here's the next lie. A young black woman who never voted before asked Trump why did he downplay the virus. And he said this.
Hi, my question is, if you believe it's the president's responsibility to protect America, why would you downplay a pandemic that is known to disproportionately harm low-income families and minority communities? Yeah.
Well, I didn't downplay it. I actually, in many ways, I upplayed it in terms of action. My action was very strong. Yeah, because what I did was with China, I put a ban on. With Europe, I put a ban on. And we would have lost thousands of more people had I not put the ban on. So that was called action, not with the mouth, but in actual fact. We did a very, very good job when we put that ban on. Whether you call it talent or luck, it was very important. So we saved a lot of lives when we did that. Joe Biden was talking about in March about it's totally over-exaggerated.
So Donald Trump didn't downplay it. Listen to this. This is an ad from Midas Touch using the audio of Donald Trump talking to Bob Woodward of the Washington Post, in his own words, downplaying coronavirus.
It goes through air. You just breathe it. That's how it's passed.
He knew it could cost him votes.
It's more deadly than your strenuous flus.
He knew it could cost him ratings.
Turning out it's not just old people, Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Young people, to plenty of young people.
He knew it could cost him popularity.
This is deadly stuff.
So Donald Trump hid the truth about COVID-19.
It's a little like the regular flu. If you're healthy, you'll be fine. Children handle it very well.
This is their new hoax.
It's going to disappear.
And cost more than 200,000 people their lives.
Be calm. It's really working out, and I think we're doing a really good job.
He lied. People people died.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Plain and simple. Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I wanted to always play it down. I am still playing it down. His own words. He lied. He also lied when he said he had a travel ban from China and Europe. No, he didn't. He restricted travel. There was never an outright ban. Both the restrictions made exemptions for travel from U.S. citizens, permanent residents, many of their families, and some others. In addition, no evidence was found of Joe Biden saying that the pandemic was totally over-exaggerated. However, Biden did say late February and early March that people should not panic about the virus. It was also noted by Breitbart News that Biden said that the coronavirus is a serious public health challenge. More lying. George Stephanopoulos asked Donald Trump, how does he respond to the people who were in top military positions who said he's unfit for office?
These are people that I let go. These are disgruntled former employees, to put it in a nice way, with a term people would understand. Mattis was a highly overrated general, didn't do the job, didn't do good on ISIS. I took over 100% of the ISIS caliphate. I had the people that I wanted in. Mattis was fired, as you know, by President Obama, and I fired him also.
He says he resigned.
Trump didn't fire James Mattis as defense secretary. James Mattis resigned in December 2018 because of the differences in policy with Trump. In Mattis's resignation letter, he said that Trump deserved a Secretary of Defense whose views were better aligned with the president's. That actually happened. So he lied about that. He lied. A young man who voted for Donald Trump last election asked what does he plan to do about police reform without sacrificing public safety. Listen to this.
The governor, frankly, in what happened in Minneapolis was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, this went on for a week or a week and a half before he allowed us to bring in the National Guard. When we brought in the National Guard, everything stopped. The crime was gone, meaning the whole thing. But by that time, a big portion of the city was burned down. We're talking about Minneapolis. In Seattle, we let them know we're coming in. They took over a big chunk of the city, 20% of the city.
Y'all, that's such a damn lie. In June, protesters set up a self-proclaimed autonomous zone in Seattle. It covered 6 blocks, not 20% of the city. Oh, Trump taking credit for the National Guard in Minnesota, saying, after a week, we sent them in. No, you didn't. He lied. Democratic Governor Tim Walz activated the National Guard 2 days after the protests began. First of all, Donald Trump can't send in the National Guard unless the governor requests. The governor can call them up. Now, it was more than 7 hours before Donald Trump publicly threatened to deploy the Guard himself when the governor actually deployed the Guard. More lies. Stephanopoulos said that people at the top of the economic ladder who own stocks are doing well. Trump then said this.
Stocks are owned by everybody. I mean, you know, if they talk about the stock market is so good. That's 401ks. I'm meeting people with, as long as they didn't sell when the market went down, when we first realized the, extent of this horrible thing from China. I mean, these people are doing, some of them are doing better than they were doing before the pandemic came.
So that 13.6 million
people held on
unemployed.
to their stocks, and remember this, because I notice you say wealthy. Sure, wealthy, but you have people that aren't wealthy but have done well because of the stock market.
Another lie. Stocks are not owned by everybody. In a poll done by Gallup earlier this year, 55% of American adults reported owning stock this year. That's the same percentage as last year. Y'all, half of the country does not own stocks. It's a lie. It's a lie. Not every person in America has a 401k. There are a significant number of jobs out there that have no 401k. That's a lie. A black pastor who voted for Jill Stein in 2016 asked Donald Trump about racial inequalities and when was America ever great again for black people?
Mr. President.
Good.
You've coined the phrase, make America great again.
Right.
When has America been great for African Americans in the ghetto of America? Are you aware of how tone deaf that comes off to African American community?
Well, I can say this. We have tremendous African American support. You've probably seen it in the polls. We're doing extremely well with African American, Hispanic American at levels that you've rarely seen a Republican have. If you talk about make America great, if you look at just prior to, and I'm talking about for the black community, you look just prior to this horrible situation coming in from China, when the virus came in, that was probably the highest point, home ownership for the black community. Home ownership, lower crime, the best jobs they've ever had, highest income, the best employment numbers they've ever had. If you go back and you want to look over many years.
Stop it. I cannot let, just pause it. I cannot let this man just lie. First of all, facts. 2019, black home ownership dropped to 40%. Its lowest since 1968. Fact, it did go up to 44% by January 2020. Donald Trump said, highest ever. Lie. The black home ownership rate was nearly 50% in 2004. He's lying. He's lying about black home ownership rate. Those are the facts. Donald Trump is a liar. Press play.
That was the best single moment in the history of the African American people in this country, I think.
Stop. That was the best single moment ever in the history of America for black people. See, this is where liars lie. For Donald Trump, he's defining how great things were for black people solely based upon the unemployment rate, which, by the way, was double that of white people. But you notice how he will say, before coronavirus, no. Look, this ain't Golden Corral. You can't get to say, all right, I'm gonna skip over the fish and I'm gonna get me some chicken and I'm gonna skip over the carrots and I'm gonna get me some green beans over here. See, you got to take all of it. So Donald Trump wants to isolate. Oh, no. But before coronavirus, what's the black unemployment rate today? 14%? What was it when you became president? 7.2%? That means during your term, the black unemployment rate has doubled. Doubled. 14%. Doubled. Nice try, but you're lying. Press play.
No, I would say.
Well, I mean, your statement is, though, make it great again. So historically, the African-American experience, especially in these ghettos that have been redlined, historically, these ghettos that have systemically been set up and treated the way that they have been, the conditions of the drugs, the guns, and everything else that actually created the symptoms for what we see, that you profess to be just the democratic cities in themselves. These things have historically been happening for African-Americans in these ghettos, and we have not been seeing a change. Quite frankly, under your administration, under the Obama's administration, under the Bush, under the Clinton, the very same things happen and the very same systems and cycles continue to ensue. And we need to see, because you say again, we need to see when was that great, because that pushes us back to a time in which we cannot identify with such greatness. And I mean, you've said everything else about choking and everything else, but you have yet to address and acknowledge that there's been a race problem in America.
So if you go, well, I hope there's not a race problem. I can tell you there's none with me, because I have great respect for all races, for everybody. This country is great because of it. But when you go back 6 months and you take a look at what was happening, you can't even compare that with past administrations. When you look at income levels and a lot of things because of the job situation where they had the lowest income, the best unemployment numbers they've ever had, the black community by far. And that was solving a lot of problems. And you know what else it was? It was bringing people together. I was starting to get, just before this was, we were having a long run of success. I was starting to get calls from Democrats that, hey, it's starting to work. Let's get together. People that you would never have thought this would have happened with. There was going to be unity. But unfortunately, that was hurt because we got set back. But now, I think next year is going to be one of our best years economically.
But income equality is still, income equality is higher. So, I mean, jobs can be produced, but at the same time, in a lot of these big major cities where African Americans are underserved, under-resourced, that's an $8 job. Does not mean that they can necessarily afford to live where they have to live or where they've been living at for the last 20 years.
Well, the income inequality, which I agree with you, is a problem. I always agreed with that. But if you look under President Obama and Biden, the income inequality was phenomenal. It was record-setting. It's
terrible. Getting worse now.
Well, we're talking about a plague coming in. Before the plague, we were doing very well. Now, we will soon be doing well again because we're going to have a fantastic third quarter. You're seeing the numbers come in. I think you're going to have a GDP that's mid-20s and maybe much higher. Somebody said 35. I don't know. These are all records we're talking about. And you're going to have a very good, economically, you're going to have a very good year next year. But I agree with a lot of the things you say, but you have to look back. Because we really had it going well. Had we not been hit by this horrible disease that came into our land, and all over the world, by the way, came all over the world, we would be in a position where I think income inequality would be different. It was really getting there. We were really driving it down,
we have to move on. But even before the pandemic, the average black family was earning half of what the average white family was earning, even if you hold education constant.
You're right. I can only compare it to the past. The African American, the black community was doing better than it had ever done by far, both in terms of unemployment, home ownership, so many different statistics, even in terms of crime.
There was still a gap between blacks and whites.
Well, I mean, there was a gap, but we were doing a good job. It was getting better. And then it was artificially shut down by this disease that came onto our land.
Absolute lies, top to bottom. Oh, it was getting better. It was Obama. Did he forget about the financial crisis that happened under President George W. Bush that Obama and Biden inherited and had to dig America out of? I'm sorry, that didn't happen? Oh, so only calamities affect you. So you want to have a discussion about what happened before COVID? Do we want to talk about the fact that, and we'll discuss it later, 75% of the children who have died from COVID are minorities? Do we want to talk about the disproportionate impact of black people dying, being infected due to coronavirus? So you don't want to talk about that? Oh, I thought so. Okay. Trump was asked about the racial injustices and what can be done to address them. Listen to this.
Hello, Mr. President. Martin Luther King Jr. once famously wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." In the light of the ongoing protests surrounding the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the recent shooting of Jacob Blake, do you feel racial injustices are occurring in this nation? And if so, what can be done to address them?
Well, I think they were tragic events, and I do feel that we have to also take into consideration that if you look at our police, they do a phenomenal job. You'll have people choke, make mistakes.
Right there. Stop right there. Pause it. Wow, they were tragic events. Oh, but the cops are doing great. Forget George Floyd. Move on. I don't. Just Jacob Blake. Move on. Oh, the cops are phenomenal. They're awesome. They're fantastic. Play.
And they happen. It happens where they have to make a fast decision and some bad things happen. And you also have bad apples, but you have 99% great people. I know the police forces very well. I think almost every one of them, if you look, I've been endorsed by so many of them. And these are great people. And I will say this, if you're going to stop crime, we have to give the respect back to the police that they deserve. They've done a fantastic job in so many locations, but then bad things happen. Look at New
just damn people who've gotten shot. Oh, no, we got to give respect back to the cops. We got to respect them. We got to, we got to show them some love. We got to just give them all the respect. Completely ignored her question. Completely. Oh, 99% of the cops are great. They're just fantastic. They're amazing. Let's play.
New York. New York was a very safe city. Rudy Giuliani did a fantastic job. The city was safe, and then all of a sudden we have a mayor. He starts cutting the police force, and crime is up 100%, 150%. I saw one form of crime up 300%. So I think it's very important, whether you talk Seattle, where they have very good police, but they're not allowed to do their job. You have to allow the police to do their job. I agree with you. Those events are terrible. But we have to allow the police to do their job. Otherwise, crime is going to soar.
Those events are terrible. But we've got to let the cops do their job. Lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. The health care lies. I mean, he sat here, George Stephanopoulos, questioning about the health care plan. Oh, no, we're going to be signing one. Huh? I'm sorry. What? George Stephanopoulos said, wait a minute, you told me a year ago you were going to be signing one in 3 weeks. He then said, wait a minute, in July, you told Chris Wallace you're going to be signing the health care bill in 2 weeks. So, no, but George, we are. George, we are. We're going to be signing one. Hold on. I'm confused. I'm just confused. Which one is it? I'm just confused. Which one is it? I mean, folks, we just saw lie after lie. I mean, PolitiFact talked about 4 Pinocchios. I mean, my God, they went through this whole deal, laying out lie after lie. Let me just bring my panel right now. A. Scott Bolden, former chair of National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Robert Patillo, executive director, Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project. Long Victoria Burke, NNPA. Robert, I'm going to start with you. I mean, I'm just Robert. I'm going to start with Robert. I'm just crazy. Trump, we have 20% of the cases because of the fact we do much more testing. If we wouldn't do testing, you wouldn't have cases. You would have very few cases. Oh my God, that's just PolitiFact said that's just flat out lie. I mean, Fauci said we've done a great job. The whole deal with President Xi and the whole deal with masks. Donald Trump, Joe Biden said I was xenophobic because I put the ban on, and I thought that was very unfair. By the way, he's totally taking that back. Actually, Biden didn't say that. He didn't say that. I mean, just again, just constant lies. Yesterday was a lie fest. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, Roland, as I always say, I think chasing Donald Trump's lies is a quixotic voyage at best. If people cared about Donald Trump lying, he wouldn't have gotten elected last time. So the idea that somehow tracing down and fact-checking every lie that he tells is going to be an effective electoral strategy, I don't know how effective that is going to be, because while we spend an hour breaking down each and every syllable of what Donald Trump says, I have no idea what Joe Biden did yesterday. I don't know where he campaigned at. I don't know. He hasn't come on this show. He hasn't come on my show. He hasn't done a circuit of black radio. We haven't seen that those mail pieces. They've just started airing ads targeted at African American men. So while Trump may lie, it gets him on TV continuously in the news cycle. It's as if Trump is running against Trump. So when you're running against yourself, that means you can completely control the narrative, and the other party in the arena just becomes a junior partner. So I think regardless of what Trump does, as long as he dominates that news cycle, as long as he gets that $3 billion in free media that he got in 2016, then this is advantage Trump. So whereas some people are put off by the lie, other people listen in sound bites and 30-second bites on their phone, that if he can have a plausible answer, that's all the fact checking they're going to do. So I think this is still a net positive for Trump.
Actually, I disagree, Lauren, because the reality is this here. And again, this is the strategy that Joe Biden should employ in every single debate. When Trump lies, he should say, that's a lie. When he lies again, he should say, that's a lie. When he makes up, he goes, another lie. He shouldn't use the word falsehoods. He shouldn't say malarkey. He should say, right there is a lie. And that's another lie. And that's another lie. And that's another lie. That is the only way. Okay, when Donald Trump got checked last night by voters, he started stumbling and bumbling. That's the only way. You have to call the lies out. Otherwise, if you don't call out lies, Lauren, and you allow them to stand and only discuss your record, then you give the impression that what he's saying is true.
Well, then that's the game that he's playing. Donald Trump is well aware of the fact that there's 5 or 6 million people watching every time this happens. Last night it was 3.8 million. So he's playing the game he always plays, which is he figures a certain percentage of the people watching don't know that what he's saying is inaccurate. He can get it out there into the narrative bloodstream. He can just sort of keep talking. And if the anchor, if the person who is moderating the discussion doesn't step in and stop him, which unfortunately can't be his opponent, although I think at the debate we will see that happen, it requires someone standing there, whether it's the person asking the question or the journalist moderating the debate. It requires somebody to check him right then and there. We've already seen in the White House briefing room multiple times that when he gets checked in real time, he can't withstand that. He's very not good, because I'm sure he spends most of his life with a bunch of yes people around him that don't say anything to him, corrective. So that is the moment that you have to have, that you can kind of loop over and over and over. But Donald Trump is playing the percentages. He figures, I can just straight out lie. I get it on TV. My supporters hear it. We understand that, 80% of the electorate is pretty much locked in almost any election. So the 20% that may or may not be undecided is the only group that you're talking to anyway. Interestingly enough, he lost to 2 reality TV shows last night in the ratings, America's Got Talent and Big Brother. But he still knows that 4 million people are watching. So if he just gets it out there, he just says whatever he wants, because he understands that even though he's lying, a lot of these clips get replayed again and again. And in his head, in his PR world, that's a win.
Oh, this is the, Scott, this is the Project Lincoln ad they dropped specifically about Donald Trump's health care plan.
What we're doing is we're going to be doing a health care plan, pre-existing, protecting people with pre-existing conditions. We're going to be doing a health care plan very strongly and protect people with pre-existing conditions.
You're arguing in the Supreme Court right now to strike it down. That would do away with pre-existing conditions.
So that we can do new health care. Do we run Obamacare well and do a good job and do the best, even though it's never going to be very good? We have run it so much better than Obama ran it. Obamacare was a disaster.
Last year, you said the health care plan would come in 2 weeks. You told Chris Wallace that this summer would come in 3 weeks.
What we're doing,
Scott, I understand Robert and Lauren's point, but I'm telling you, I believe the way you deal with Donald Trump, if you're Joe Biden, you say lie, fact. Lie, fact.
Right.
Lie, fact. Here's the deal. You cannot rely on any moderator. If you're in a debate, you can't rely on any of the moderators to fact check in real time. You have to be armed with the information yourself. And this is one of the reasons why I criticize a lot of these television anchors when they are not fully prepared in real time for the lie. And so the lie goes out. When I was on CNN, I used to bust cats all the time because I was always prepared. And I would go, that's a lie. That's a lie. What you just said is a lie. Because you got to hit them right there. Otherwise, if you allow the lie to stand, the person at home goes, well, no one said anything, he didn't say anything. And the whole deal, let's wait for the fact check after the debate. No, hell no. You got to hit the lie on the spot.
Yeah, and you got to hit every lie. It's like putting a trial together. I'm a trial lawyer, litigator. And so one of the rules of litigation is if someone writes a brief and misstates the fact or basically lies an oral argument, you check them right then and there, and you reserve time to do it. But you got to be really prepared to cross-examine Donald Trump, because the best interviews are when he gets checked, right? Then he goes into la-la land. I disagree with Robert on this. We're not chasing his lies. We're checking his lies. And while that 40% of his voting support is going to support him no matter what, there are a lot of undecideds. There are independents. There are suburban women. There are Democrats. There are Lincoln Republicans who listen to this nonsense and either reject it, especially on COVID, because everyone has a friend or family member that's been affected by this, whether it's economically or health-wise. And so when he lies about COVID, he drives the narrative not of telling the truth, but he drives the narrative of lying about it and waiting 70 days to address it, and then the repercussions of the results that his lies have turned deadly now. That is such a powerful message to the average voter because we've all been affected by it. He cannot outrun these facts and these lies that he's put on the table. And I think this election is a bottom line proposition on how he handled COVID, how he lied about it, and how it's affected. His decision have affected us, not only health-wise, life and death, as well as economically. So whatever he says pre-COVID that came in from Asia, we're dealing with his America and how he's handled it, how he's managed it, and he gets a failing grade. And whether he fails now in our minds, but at the ballot box, that failure is going to show up. It's got to, because it's dominated each of our lives in different but very powerful ways.
The reason, and again, first of all, we know he is going to lie with impunity. We know he is going to make stuff up. We know he is going to take credit for any number of things. But this is one of those moments where you have to be willing to punch him in the face at every turn. Right. And when you hit, and see, Robert, Biden can hit him, say, that's a lie, here's fact, and this is what I'm going to do as president. You have to do that. But if you are relying on a third party to do it, you're going to miss the opportunity. And let me tell you something right now. If he hits him, if Donald Trump lies 20 times in a debate, I don't care who you are. If you're sitting there watching it and you're like, damn, he's hitting that lie. Exactly. Lie. You are diminishing the person. And then you say, no. You're going to stand here. You're going to tell the truth. You're going to tell the truth. If I'm Joe Biden, I'm saying, did you inherit an economy from me and Barack Obama that was on upswing? Yes or no? See, to me, you got to be aggressive with it. I think in 2016, Hillary Clinton sort of was too. No. You can't leave anything to chance with a brutal thug.
That's right. You're running against a gangster.
Go ahead, Robert.
Roland, I would love to be as young and idealistic as you are and have that much faith in the American people. But we've had a game show host for president for the last 4 years. And I think, look, McDonald's doesn't make good hamburgers. Hamburgers are nasty, unless they want to advertise on the show, in which case they're delicious. But look, the hamburgers ain't good. So instead of making the hamburgers good, they put $1 billion into commercials to make you think that the hamburger tastes good. And then your kids fight you to go eat those hamburgers. That is exactly what Donald Trump does. It doesn't matter about the product. It doesn't matter what comes out of his mouth. He's calling into Fox and Friends once a week now just to make sure that he's always on.
Robert, he's doing that because he knows there won't be pushback. The reality is this here. Every time he's had pushback, he begins to stumble and bumble. So what I'm arguing is you can't allow the lie to go uninterrupted. You got to put him on the defense. And the best way to say lie. Look, we called Paris Dennard to come on today's show. His ass said no. Why do you think his ass said no? Because I would have hit his ass with lie. There's a reason why Bruce Lavelle won't come on this show. Oh, he'll run to CNN because CNN ain't going to hit his ass like I'm going to hit him. He'll run to Fox, boom, lie. Ashley Bell not going to come here because I'm going to hit his ass with lie. They don't want to be forced to defend lies. So the best way is don't even come on. And I'm just saying, Lauren, I'm telling you, Democrats better be real aggressive in those 3 debates, and at every turn, if you soft shoe and try to do a little cute little dance, no, that ain't how you deal with thugs. You gotta bust a bully in his mouth.
Well, I do think you can probably count on Joe Biden to be aggressive. What kind of messes this up a little bit, of course, is the format of these so-called debates. A lot of them involve a toss back and forth from the anchor to the candidate back to the anchor.
You gotta screw the rules. You gotta screw the rules. Trump ain't gonna abide by the rules. I'm telling you. When it's his turn and he lie, this is what you do. Lie.
Right.
He lie again. Lie. Sir, please don't interrupt him. Wait. Sir, please don't interrupt. Tell him stop lying. That's just how you gotta go.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. Well, that I think actually is what Biden is probably likely to do.
And we know Harris is gonna do it.
You can't have 20 million people sitting watching that and have it go unchecked. Frankly, when I looked at moderators, I know Chris Wallace is certainly not going to let it happen because his entire style is based on checking people when something stupid is said. And Chris Wallace has absolutely no problem stopping the entire production to do that. But you got to have people who are assertive. It can't be Norah O'Donnell and Gayle King. It can't be infotainment anchors. It can't be any of that stuff. And it does have to be an opponent standing there that checks him. But the game, all the people that you mentioned that can't go on a show where they get fact-checked, that's the name of the game. I mean, that is a PR strategy.
Yes.
To use somebody else's platform to lie on. To use somebody else's platform to lie on is a strategy. And Republicans do it all the time. Again,
all I'm saying is look, do I think Senator Harris is going to do it? Oh, yeah. Now, the difference is here. Mike Pence is a smoother operator than Donald Trump. Mike Pence is going to talk in that very nice, easygoing, Midwestern manner, and he's going to sit here. He's not going to be as combative. The best opponent, look, as somebody who has done this for years, I'm going to tell you right now, that's what I destroyed Glenn Beck so bad on CNN. I wish I had access to the CNN video library so I could show y'all. I destroyed Glenn Beck so bad. Glenn Beck said the next day after the debate, Sam Feist, who was now the Washington, D.C. director, he came running out. That was great. Yo, Glenn Beck was like, oh, hell no. They tried to get me and Glenn Beck to debate the next day. Glenn Beck said no. He wasn't available all day. Then Glenn Beck said, for damn that, I ain't going on CNN against nobody. I will only go on if it's by myself and Wolf, because he could not withstand the heat. And I was smacking the shit out of him, Scott, and he couldn't handle it. And he was like, yo, I ain't never debating him again. That's why you never saw me on Beck's show. He never came back, because the moment he said something, I started laughing. And he took my hand and he said, oh, I'm glad you're so dismissive. He said, I'm glad you're so dismissive. I said, no, go ahead and finish your point. I'm going to deal with you in a second.
Well, we don't have the video, but I can guarantee you, I go back to the litigation scenario and the cross-examination. If you had Donald Trump on the witness stand, right, and you cross-examining, you can't get into this philosophical or policy debate. You have to keep your questions short, to the point, and in response to his questions. But most importantly, you got to be very well prepared. You don't have to memorize the fact. You have to know the fact.
Right.
You have to know lying. And as soon as he starts lying, you checking. Short, direct, powerful statement of either denial or that you're lying, and quickly why you're lying.
Yep.
December 7th, you said X, Y, and Z. And that's how you control a witness in the courtroom or in a deposition. You got to do the same thing if you're Joe Biden, because if you don't, then you let the narrative run its course. You got to control the narrative with him.
That's it.
And never let him go. Never let him get control of it.
And that's why, Robert, I hear you when you talk about your policies and what you want to do. But the reality is, we know this election is pretty much set. What you have to do is you have to be in a constant state of exposing and see, again, Democrats want to give paragraphs. Republicans operate by bumper stickers. And this is where it has to be quick, fire back. And I think, again, and this is also where, Robert, if you're Joe Biden, you got to say, Donald Trump, You lied to those people in the Midwest. You lied to the people in Indiana. What happened to those carrier jobs you promised and went back to Mexico? What happened to these jobs? You lied about that. You got to reinforce the narrative. Otherwise, you're going to sit here and be playing his game because he wants you to get in the back and forth. No. You got to gut. You got to gut his ass at every time. I want to talk about this other thing that happened in the debate, y'all, where Donald Trump brought up. Just play the audio, y'all. This Lord.
The waiters.
The herd.
Waiters?
The herd. The herd. Do y'all have the video? Listen, watch this, y'all. Watch this.
Okay, and it is going away, and it's probably going to go away now a lot faster because of the vaccine. It would go away without the vaccine, George, but it's going to go away a lot faster with it.
It would go away without the vaccine?
Sure, over a period of time. Sure, with time it goes
and many
away.
deaths.
And you'll develop herd, like a herd mentality. It's going to be herd developed, and that's going to happen. That will all happen. But with the vaccine, I think it will go away very quickly.
Got to take a quick break.
I really believe we're rounding the corner, and I believe that's strong.
As you know, Dr. Fauci disagrees with that.
Well, I mean, but a lot of people do agree with me.
See, that's what you asked him. Who?
Let me bring up Dr. Alexia Gaffney, an infectious disease expert. Doc, this fool just said, even with the vaccine, it's just gonna go away. Viruses just don't just go away.
No, they don't, Roland. I mean, if you're going to jump out of your lane, at least speak the right language. It's not herd mentality, it's herd immunity. And it would take for at least 70% of the United States population, you're talking about 200 million people, to become naturally infected with COVID or vaccinated in order for us to gain or develop herd immunity. But the problem is talking about natural herd immunity means that you're just willing to risk more than the approaching 200,000 American lives we've already lost in order to achieve herd immunity. The virus is not just going to go away.
I want you to hold that point. That was a guy, he sent a tweet out, and he, let me switch. I want to show this, y'all. And I just want to get your thoughts on this, because on this whole notion of herd immunity. This is what he, hopefully I can show it. This guy, Kyle Felster. Kyle is he's a breaking news editor at CNN. This is what he said. There are approximately 328.2 million people in the United States. To get the low end of herd immunity, about 60% of the population must catch COVID. That's about 196,920 cases. The current U.S. death rate is about 2.96%. So that means in order to achieve herd immunity, we would have to accept 5,836,679 deaths.
Unacceptable.
So is that calculation correct, that we would have to, so to accept herd immunity, we would also have to accept not just the COVID infections, but the COVID deaths that come from herd immunity?
And that's a conservative number, in terms of the number of
5.8 million.
I'm calling it conservative because if you had that many deaths, imagine how many people are going to require hospitalization. We didn't see peak numbers of COVID all over the United States at the exact same time, but where we had hotspots and epicenters, our health systems were overwhelmed. If we stop everything, we don't do anything to prevent the spread of the virus in a ridiculous attempt to achieve natural herd immunity, we will completely overwhelm our healthcare systems, and we will lose even more American people as a result of this virus, way more than that number is predicting, because that number is based on perfect circumstances. Being able to treat those that need to be hospitalized, being able to give everyone who needs it critical care. And we already saw what could happen when our systems become overwhelmed. That is not something that we want to see happening nationwide simultaneously.
This is, So first of all, just explain this herd immunity. There are a number of people who keep saying that's the only way we can do this. They also are suggesting that if you do herd immunity, that once you get it, you can't get it again. That's not true.
No, it's not true that once you get the virus, you can't get it again. Probably a small proportion of people who have been infected will get reinfected, but the reality is we don't know. This is our first time dealing with COVID-19. It's a brand new infection, even though we are 8 months in terms of our knowledge of this virus, but there's still a lot to learn as things progress and evolve. So the concept of herd immunity is that if the majority of your population is immune to an infection that is communicable or contagious from person to person, whether that immunity comes naturally or whether that immunity comes via a vaccination, then you protect the overall population or community or herd, because with less and less individuals susceptible to the infection, then the people who haven't been vaccinated and the people who haven't had the infection are protected because you stop the spread or propagation of the infection. So that number needs to be around 70%. But we already talked about how many lives would be at stake if we allow 200 plus million Americans to become sick with this infection. So we need to continue our social distancing. We need to continue to isolate. We need to continue to wear our masks. We need to continue hand hygiene. We need to continue to avoid large crowds. Everything that we have been doing up until now needs to continue, and it will need to continue even when we have a vaccine available for some time.
I gotta ask you about this here. The CDC director, Robert Redfield, testified today about the importance of masks. This is what he had to say.
Go so far as to say that this face mask is more guaranteed to protect me against COVID than when I take a COVID vaccine, because the immunogenicity may be 70%. And if I don't get an immune response, the vaccine's not going to protect me. This face mask will. I might even go so
Doc,
far as to say that.
Your thoughts about that? What he just said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is a mask better than a vaccine? It's comparing apples to oranges. We still will need to continue to take the isolation and social distance precautions, even when people begin to get vaccinated, because the reality is not everyone is going to get vaccinated, and there's no such thing as a perfect vaccine. So if you're talking about only a particular proportion of the population getting vaccinated and then the vaccine having efficacy or protecting 70% of the people who receive it, there's still some significant gaps that we need to keep in mind. And so we will still need to continue to wear our mask. Nothing in this pandemic situation is a get out of jail free card. So we really just have to be vigilant, and we have to let this thing, in a sense, run its course, but not run its course like take off your mask, go do what you will, return back to life, and see where the cards fall. That's not what we're talking about here. It really needs to be a mass effort, and it needs to be a concerted effort. Everybody needs to be doing the same thing to protect themselves as well as protect one another from the spread of this infection.
I got to ask you this here. What do you make of the CDC director saying a vaccine is not going to be ready for the American public until 2021? Donald Trump has a news conference that comes out and says, oh, no, he was mistaken. The CDC director was mistaken. It's going to be ready in a month or so.
Yeah. So the vaccine trials are still underway. And my understanding of what these vaccine companies are doing, concurrent with studying these drugs, they are producing doses of the vaccine. That is atypical. Typically, a vaccine is studied, it is checked for efficacy, meaning does it cause an immune response? Does it protect the people who received it? It's checked for safety, right? Do people have bad side effects? Are they terrible side effects? Are they side effects that we can accept? Like, what's the risk versus the benefit of receiving the vaccine? And if the benefit far outweighs the risk and you're not endangering people by giving the vaccine, then you go into production. Now the vaccines are starting to be produced, but you will need billions and billions of doses of this vaccine to protect the population worldwide. And it takes months to produce a vaccine, even when the studies are successful and tell you that the vaccines work. So he's really speaking lies. I'm going to just stay on the path that you're on, lies. You know, he's saying things that are not scientifically possible, but that's what happens when you jump out of your lane. He needs to let the experts speak so that we can receive the truth and so that people continue to do the right thing. Giving people false hope, telling people to let their guard down, you know, making light of the situation is dangerous, and we are seeing the consequences of this over and over and over again.
Well, the expert did speak, but then he's contradicting the experts, and that's part of the problem. Doc, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, then. Robert, you asked, you don't know what Joe Biden is doing. Joe Biden did speak about the issue of vaccines today. This is what he had to say in his news conference.
With 7 of our nation's top public health experts on the state of the pandemic, the steps we need to curb the spread of the virus, and the challenges of distributing a safe and effective vaccine once one is identified. Before I turn to those issues, let me say a few words about the President's comments last night. Even before acknowledging to Bob Woodward on tape that he was fully informed on the gravity of the danger related to COVID-19, he refused to warn the American people. Again, last night in television town hall, the President revealed in no uncertain terms the lack of seriousness with which he continues to take this pandemic. Nearly 8 months after this crisis, on the doorstep of 200,000 American deaths, President Trump has refused once again to take responsibility or to take action. By his own admission, he continued to lie about COVID-19. He doubled down on the catastrophic mistakes that he's made. And perhaps, worst of all, he made clear that he still doesn't have a plan to bring us out of this crisis. He even said, and I quote, "A lot of people think that masks are not good, undercutting the easiest, most effective means we have for reducing the spread of this disease." This virus is still taking nearly 1,000 lives a day. The forecasts show that those numbers are likely to climb this winter. But incredibly, Donald Trump insists that he wouldn't have done anything differently. Not one thing. Last Friday, we learned that another one of the thousands of Americans died due to this virus, and it continues to rise. And on the very same day that we reported 1,000 deaths on Friday, and the very same day, Canada reported that not one person died of COVID-19 in Canada. Trump wouldn't have done anything differently? If you're a parent in America, preparing for another day that your child can't attend school, if you're grieving the loss of a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, husband or wife, if you're a small business owner who's on the brink of total bankruptcy, who can't open or can't go back to work because the virus still is spreading in your community, how does it make you feel to hear the President say he wouldn't have done anything differently? And if he gets 4 more years, why should we expect anything to change? All the President had to offer last night, President Trump, was the same weak and feckless inaction, the same lies and empty promises that we've seen from the very beginning. He still won't accept any responsibility. He still won't offer a plan. And last night, he repeated what he said so many times before, that even if he continues to offer only failing indifference, someday the virus is going to go away by a miracle. Even if he does nothing, it's going to go away by a miracle. It won't go away like a miracle. In fact, even if we get a vaccine, will not be available for most of the population until well into the 2021. You know, so we're heading into a very dangerous autumn. The fact that the University of Washington model, which the White House has previously touted, projects that cases and deaths are going to spike this November and an additional by 215,000 Americans, they say, are going to die. Began the spike in November, but by the first of the year, 215,000 will be dead, additional. That's more than have already died. We need leadership right now to prevent that from happening. The same university model shows, the University of Washington model, shows that if there's universal masking, these deaths could be, projected deaths could be cut in half. We could say between...
All right, folks, 47 days until the election. Early voting is starting. People are already casting ballots. Ballots were sent out in North Carolina. We're seeing it happen. Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris stepping up their events. Biden has spent time in Florida. He is trying to shore up support there when it comes to Latino voters. New poll is out. Also, Scott, I'll start with you first, showing that Joe Biden is doing better among among white voters, especially even non-college educated white voters happening there as well. One of the reasons why he's leading in polling there in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan as well. And so it's very interesting when you start looking at these various numbers. Also polling coming out showing the Senate candidate in Maine with a 12-point lead over Susan Collins. Democrats are leading in Arizona, leading in North Carolina, also tight race in Montana. The reality is that Democrats could very well get control of the United States Senate. Why is that important? Just today, Mitch McConnell has pushed through 6 more federal judges, 8 federal judges this week. Donald Trump last night said they hope to hit 300 by the end of the year. And so this is where the rubber meets the road now when it comes to driving turnout. That is going to be the difference. It's going to come down to how many people on your side gets turned out versus the other side.
And those who believe that the anti-Trump effort or initiative or excitement isn't enough to win, you just ran through some numbers 47 days out, where in North Carolina and in Maine and other Republican strongholds that there's a lead to be had there. Not only is Donald Trump losing because of his lies and because of COVID, but it's spreading to Senate races and House races, which is really important. 300 federal judges, and most of them young and incompetent, is going to mean generations of bad decision making, or at least influence in the judiciary. It is incredible, which means that we need a new Senate majority. And the only way we're going to get that is to win that Senate. We've got to remain competitive in Georgia and North Carolina and Arizona. But you're right, it's a ground game. If we got a ground game and a get out the vote effort, not just registration, but if you're an average voter and you want to do something because you care about the future of this country and that this is a consequential election, then instead of you going to the polls, don't go alone. Take 3, 4, 5 people. Go back several times and take people to the polls to vote, because it's the only way you can ensure that we win this election, because we're not just running against Donald Trump and the GOP. And I've written about this and I've said it on this show. You're running against Russian interference. You're running against the GOP and Donald Trump, and you're also running against voter suppression. And so we can't take anything for granted. I don't care what the polls show. I don't want to read another poll. All I want to do is read the results on the evening of November 3rd or the 2 or 3, 4, 5 days afterwards, because we got to have a clean race and a big win, because if it's close, Donald Trump's not going to go quiet. And I've said that for the last 4 years. He's not going quietly, and he doesn't care about a constitutional crisis. He doesn't care about what the military says or does. That's why winning the Senate and the House is really important, too, because he won't have the Senate to backstop his nonsense about voter fraud and mail-in fraud and what have you. So there's a lot on the line here, and so we have to be vigilant and take people to the polls and ignore whatever the polling says right now.
Robert, when we talk about what's happening, Democrats in Michigan are concerned because the Biden campaign is not doing door knocking. Republicans are. They say that the Biden campaign is they are using text messages, they're using phone calls. Jen O'Malley said they've reached out to some 2.6 million folks there as well. This is just a different election. The reality is everything that you thought beforehand, how you're supposed to do it, goes out of the window. The Biden campaign is concerned about people contracting coronavirus, those things along those lines. What do you make of, again, this fear of Democrats they could lose Michigan again by having Trump signs all over the place, not seeing enough Joe Biden signs or people wearing the gear? I mean, it's one of those things that you got to make a call in terms of how you're going to do it, and then coronavirus is a real fear.
Well, that's how I cut my teeth in politics, doing grassroots initiatives, knocking on doors, grassroots campaigning, field director for a statewide campaign when I think I was about 22. So I very much feel that you have to do that in-person touch for campaigns. Text messages are one thing, emails are one thing, but you have to have that person-to-person connection. And frankly, right now, Democrats are fighting this fight with one hand tied behind their back, because while they're following all the rules, they're doing all the public safety protocols, no large rallies, making sure to wear masks, socially distancing, all the no in-person voting, voter contact, no field game. Donald Trump's not playing by those same rules. So right now you are fighting with one hand tied behind your back, completely ceding the entire ground game to Donald Trump out of precaution. And we're 47 days out. And right now just like in boxing, the tie goes to the aggressor, and it seems like Donald Trump is the aggressor in this election for a more aggressive ground game, a more aggressive grassroots campaigning, a more aggressive media strategy. Even the clip you made of Biden was just Biden talking about Trump. The election is completely about Trump, and the tie goes to the puncher, Donald Trump, the puncher in this case.
Lauren, if we talk about what's going on, again, when you look at how people are responding to this election, University of Georgia, is amazing how they're perfectly fine with football, but they won't have an early voting location on the University of Georgia campus. Wow. I wonder why. I keep telling people these Republicans don't like all of these college students, white college students who are voting Democrat. That's sort of the game that they've been playing. This here was the statement they sent out today. Due to the concerns about long voting lines and insufficient indoor space required to maintain social distancing necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic, the university determined early this summer that there will be no on-campus voting site at the Tate Center this fall. Those comparing this matter to a football game should be able to recognize that football games will be played outdoors, but we will still require social distancing by substantially reducing capacity in the stadium. We have eliminated tailgating as well due to a desire to keep the campus as safe as possible and limit visitors during the pandemic. Students will still be able to vote at other locations, including one in downtown Athens, to which the university will provide a shuttle service for student voters. What I don't understand, Lauren, is you got a damn basketball arena. That not big enough to have an early voting location? Hell, if you're going to do early voting location, this football stadium is not going to be open every single week. Let them vote inside the stadium.
Well, obviously, everybody knows the game in Georgia, having obviously what we saw with Stacey Abrams in the election effectively being stolen. There's a Senate seat that is in contention in Georgia as well. They're not even really hiding it or trying to feign what they're actually doing. It's just right in your face, right there for everybody to see. The problem for Donald Trump and the Republicans on the map writ large, though, is that I'm not seeing where Donald Trump wins states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan. Maybe he wins Florida. Okay. But if you look at the map, I would be very shocked. We have to remember that and obviously we respect the Electoral College and all that, but you have to remember that Hillary Clinton barely lost. They lost because they didn't listen to anybody with regard to Wisconsin and Michigan. And she got more than, 2.8 million, but of course she still lost. I would be shocked if Biden was not able to at least duplicate those numbers, and he should be able to surpass them. I thought Robert just made a good point, though. That rambling thing that we just saw with Biden just sort of talking on and making Trump, the narrative is playing on defense and not offense. There is some logic to this idea that Biden should just sort of check out and watch and understand the fact that this is all a referendum on Donald Trump. Yeah, you could play that to some extent, and I understand that play because 200,000 people, we're about to have 200,000 people dead of COVID, and of course, to say nothing of the millions, over 40 million employed, one would think that this entire thing, of course, would be a referendum on Trump. But, to the point before, I actually think that Trump is going to make a scene whether he loses big or not. Whether it's close or not, he's going to try to pretend that it was stolen and he's going to try to throw that up into question. I really think the Republicans are going to lose the Senate. We see a few races, obviously, Colorado and Maine, where it's kind of, they're down by a lot, the incumbents, the Republican incumbents. And I think that's going to play a big role in the discussion right after the election. But this entire strategy has to switch to early voting and mail-in ballots. And they are showing actually that text messaging has an 80% open rate. So text messaging has been a big deal this particular cycle, given COVID. But the Democrats do have to get serious and figure out their door knock strategy, because that they can't just kiss that goodbye. So it'll be interesting to see what Biden's people do. But they are they're starting to worry me, because I'm hearing some things that I heard back in when we had Hillary running, and that is worrisome.
One of the things that Ohio Supreme Court, they ruled that the Secretary of State cannot limit counties to only having one mail drop box. Republicans have been attacking one of the Democratic judges. Scott, this is unheard of. The Ohio Supreme Court Chief Justice, a Republican, is blasting the state Republicans for their attack on that Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor of the Supreme Court of Ohio. I condemn in the strongest possible terms both the statement released by the Ohio Republican Party on September 15th, 2020, and its unsigned authors. The statement disparages the integrity of Franklin County Common Pleas Judge Richard Fry. The publication accuses Judge Fry of colluding with the Ohio Democratic Party and labels him a partisan judge. Every one of Ohio's 722 judges, 800 magistrates, and numerous active retired judges should be greatly concerned and voice their dismay at the irresponsible Republican Party allegation that politics control the judge's decision. This is a blatant and unfounded attack on the independence of the Ohio judiciary. Republicans, again, are masters at voter suppression. They don't want additional mail drop boxes, and this is how they weaponize secretaries of state. We saw it with Brian Kemp in Ohio. We saw it, in Georgia. We previously saw it when Ken Blackwell was Secretary of State in Ohio. Of course, we can go all the way back to 2000. Catherine Harris in Florida and numerous other states. These are the games they play in order to try to cheat to win.
Yeah, but the accusations against the judiciary, I'm not surprised, even though we have elected judges and it was a Republican chief judge of the Supreme Court in Ohio, the judiciary has got to remain independent and have its integrity. And so this is the strongest statement the chief judge could make. Damn the politics, if you will. And he's absolutely right about that. This is the Republicans' efforts to legalize voter suppression. We've talked about their efforts in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and even in Ohio, because Ohio is such an important swing state and in the heart of America. You've got to come out against that. What's amazing to me is that there's not more outrage from Republicans and Democrats because about the Republicans who want fewer people to vote than an expanded voter population that makes all the sense in the world. It's such a fundamental constitutional right. You actually have a political party, an important one, a big one, one of the two major parties who actually want fewer people to vote because their ideas are not that popular. It is anti-American, it's anti-Constitution, and yet that is a premise of the Republican Party. All of us should be outraged with that, all of us.
But the reality is this here. They're going to do what they do, Robert, and I keep saying this here. You got to go with the scene from Remember the Titans. You got to leave no doubt. You have to bury every Republican in every state. You must bury them with a wide margin. I'm not talking winning by 10, 20, 30, 50,000, even 100,000. I'm talking about you trying to run up the score. You got to run up the score in North Carolina, in Georgia. You got to run up the score in Florida, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan. And if you're the Biden-Harris campaign, you're going to be aggressive as hell. You're going to be putting money on the streets. You're going to be pushing every get out the vote group as well, because you have to leave no doubt, because Trump and the Republican Party are going to try, if it's close, they're going to try to do what they did in Florida in 2000, to throw out 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000, as many ballots as possible in order for them to steal a victory.
Well, you're completely correct. And remember, we have 2 Senate seats up for grabs here in Georgia. Pastor Warnock running for one, and John Ossoff running for the other. And part of what I think Democrats make a mistake is they still have this idea that they're going to get their voters back. Those 1960s to 1980s Democratic voters, the truck drivers, the Rust Belt voters, the working class white voters. And at the same time, you look at a state like Georgia, where you have a 35% African American population, 10 to 12% of the Hispanic population, 53% of the state is female, one of the largest LGBTQ populations in the country. Get those people to vote instead of trying to get those rednecks in Brunswick to come back to the Democratic Party on economic anxiety issues. Campaign to the people who will vote for you. Remember, Donald Trump won states that include cities. Yeah. Donald Trump won states that include cities like New Orleans, Houston, Philadelphia, Detroit, Gary, Indiana. Those are states that Donald Trump won. Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Miami, because you're not motivating your people who are in these urban areas to turn out in record numbers. If Hillary had gotten Obama 2012 numbers, she would have won. If Biden gets Obama 2012 minority turnout numbers, he will win. But they're not putting that work in. And as I said, I have not seen Joe Biden sit down on this show of Roland Martin to talk about what he wants to do for the black community.
Well,
not sitting down with Cardi
B. Drag him to the poll.
But let's wait. Let's be clear. Hold up. 1 second. Invitation is in not only for Biden as well as for Harris as well. We're trying to lock that down. So that is happening. I got to throw this out first of all. Y'all know what time it is. I haven't done this in a while, so y'all go ahead and roll it.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
Is this the crazy white people?
I'm white. I got you, huh? Illegally selling water without a permit
on my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, y'all. White boy in London acted an ass on the subway. Check what happened.
Someone to jump it. Kick his head in. Violence! Violence!
Oh you don't go about that EDL stuff.
EDL stuff. Roll with the EDL stuff.
Okay.
I don't roll with the EDL stuff.
Worse than them, isn't it?
Yes! You're
right,
Why
take a shower? Why take a shower? Shouting does not make a point.
EDL stuff.
Yeah, you're lucky I have a form. I'm going to be posting it today. Trust me.
What have I got to be? What have I got to be?
Between the train and the platform. Change here for the circle. District.
This is my home. You're all going back. You know it as well. You know we're going back. Go on. Keep going. On the internet. I'm popular. What's your name? Do you know what my name is? What's your name? 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 Tell me your name. No, you're black.
You're black?
Oh my God. What's that got to do? Yeah.
What is black got to do with anything? What is with anything?
Shut up. This is popular.
What's popular?
This is less than enough. Less than enough. Less than enough. Defend go on.
Hate. But no, you know what? If you're talking about me, look at me in the eye.
Hate. You see that?
I think he's still asleep. I think he's still. Lauren, I'm telling you.
Knock the F out.
I'm telling you, these people, they act the fool. They act the fool.
The F out.
I mean, one punch, and the brothers were like, say bruh, okay, we done.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me sort of a UK version.
Say it again, Lauren. Say it again.
I said it was a UK version of what you played the other day. I think it was in a 7-Eleven with a guy running his mouth. And he called the guy boy and said, you know, what are you going to do about it? Not a big fan of assault and violence, but, you know, it's a piece of advice that a lot of people need to understand. You can make any decision you want. You can do anything you want. You can make any decision you want. You can say what you want, but you have to be ready for the consequences of what you say and what you do. And that is, you know, with this video, with the ability to have a camera on like everything with regard to our cell phones, we're getting kind of a window into a lot of things that happen in society. But that was like a replay of what showed. I think it was about 3 shows ago with the young guy in the store.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I mean, just like Scott, you kept telling me like, oh no, this is inciting violence. No, I keep telling you.
Okay, I changed my tune now, having been through this, with one of my favorite sections of your show. Let me just say this: I don't condone violence. I still don't, but I understand.
Yeah, I understand. Robert, they gonna learn. They gonna learn. Stop messing with people.
Well, look, you know, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So I think they've learned this lesson. And those black dudes, like, they were like Wakandan or something. Like, those were some, you know, some of those war dogs. So he picked the wrong ones. I mean, he probably should have figured out halfway through that soliloquy that things weren't going to end well. He probably should have got off one stop earlier. But I think part of what we have to teach in our history, because we spend so much time teaching the nonviolent parts of black history that's lulled many people into believing that throughout our entire heritage, all we did was, you know, sit and pray and sing songs and stuff. No, you had the Stono Rebellion, you had John Brown, you had the original Cassius Clay. Look up a lot of our history and find out exactly what happened and the battles that took place. And maybe people have a different opinion when they decided to make these sorts of speeches in public.
All right, folks, real short break. We gotta get. Hold up.
Let me ask you a quick question.
No, I gotta go to the next break. I gotta go to the next. What? I gotta go to the next guest. I gotta go to short break. When we come back.
Do you have a right to hit somebody if they call you the N-word in public?
Yep.
Yes or no?
Yep. That's your answer. All right, folks. That's called verbal assault. Gotta go to a break. We come back. We're gonna talk with Charlamagne the God about his new black podcasting network. That's next to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Fill out your 2020 census and include everyone who lived with you as of April 1st. Kids, uncles, anyone. They don't even have to be family. Now remember, this count helps inform where billions in federal funding goes each year. So shape your future and start here at 2020census.gov. All right, folks, you hear Charlamagne the God on The Breakfast Club. Now he has a new venture in partnership with iHeartRadio, and that is a black podcasting network. It is called the Black Effect Podcast Network. He joins us right now. Charlamagne, what's up?
Roland, what's up, my brother? How are you, sir?
Doing great. So, Black Effect, the name, where did the name come from?
Oh, man, the inspiration was a song off Jay-Z and Beyonce's album, the Everything Is Love project that people slept on, by the way. They had a song called The Black Effect, and, you know, the hook was like, I'm good on any MLK Boulevard. And, you know, Jay-Z is a black man who's an inspiration to me on so many levels, but, you know, especially for what he does as on the business end. And so that's simply that. Like, I saw that title, and I was like, oh, he made it a hot song. I'm going to make it a hot company.
So you say make it a hot company there. One of the questions people, when you first made the announcement, people saying, oh, you know, do you actually own this? Or could we say partnership? That's one thing that people are tweeting. They're like, Charlamagne, he don't own it. iHeart owns it.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 joint venture. And, you know, that means that I own 50, you know, I own the majority of the network. And if you go look at the trademark, which a lot of people did, which that's when I knew that Twitter just goes way too far to either prove you right or prove you wrong. People were actually digging up the trademark, and they saw that I trademarked, Black Effect Radio and Black Effect Podcast back in August of 2019. So yes, I am the majority owner of the Black Effect Podcast Network.
So in these, so that's not 50-50. If you're the majority, you got majority.
I don't want to discuss. Yeah, F it, like 51.
Right, 51 is majority. Gotcha. Yeah. All right. What areas are different folks with the podcast? Because you've already announced the people who are going to be launching with it. And when does it launch?
It launched actually the first show launched this Tuesday. Steve Smith Sr. cut to it. Because Steve was ready to go. Steve had a bunch of podcasts in the deck. So
Steve Smith Sr., the former NFL wideout.
The former NFL wideout.
Make sure not the basketball player.
The what?
Make sure it wasn't the basketball player.
Oh, no. The Steve Smith Sr. I'm sorry, Steve Smith Sr. I apologize. Steve Smith Sr., the former Carolina Panther, one of the best trash talkers ever in the league. So he dropped 2 episodes this week of his show called Cut to It. He's got Malcolm Jenkins on the 2nd episode, and that's available right now. And we're rolling out All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. They come out this week because their show starts on Showtime this week. So we're dropping their podcast to coincide with the show that they have on Showtime, All the Smoke.
Obviously, podcasting has exploded. One of the reasons we did this show on the digital piece, because again, linear or terrestrial is not really how people are just getting information. I mean, the reality is, if you look at your listeners on the Breakfast Club, and then you compare it to the number of YouTube followers you guys have as well, I mean, the reality is the digital space allows for far more creativity, and you don't have the same gatekeepers, if you will, as you do with terrestrial or linear television.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason that I love podcasts in particular is because I feel like they take the best attributes of radio and magnify them. The best attribute of radio to me was always the personalities. Over time that got lost because radio wanted to focus on the music, and they made the music to star. So a lot of radio stations became jukeboxes, and, personalities, we kind of just became announcers. Not me. I've always focused on being a personality, but a lot of guys are just announcers, and a lot of women are just announcers. They do the time, they do the temperature, they introduce the next songs, they keep it moving. Podcasts take just that personality, and it's literally them for an hour. It's literally them for 2 hours. And I've always been a fan of talk radio, so podcasts to me just take the best attribute of radio and magnify it times 10. Well,
and I'm glad you made that point about talk radio. As we're talking, we're going to roll the promo video you guys have for the network. Go ahead, guys, roll it. It's interesting. I remember a few years ago, I was talking with Alfred Liggins, who is the CEO of Urban One, and we were talking about and I had mentioned, I said, look, Radio One needs to go into podcasting. My whole deal was you're getting rid of your talk radio stations, and this is the perfect way to do that. But you're getting rid of the stations. They weren't interested. And the reality is that you're starting this deal here. Thank goodness, being African American. But the thing that I keep saying is we've got to have black folks with ownership of controlling our narrative and telling our story, as opposed to what we consistently have is that, frankly, majority control of white America reaping the ad dollars, reaping all the money, and we don't actually control it ourselves.
Yes, and that's one of the other things I love about podcasts. The reason I love podcasts is because when it comes to the ad revenue, that is something that the host of that podcast, when they partner with a platform, can get the majority of. Even if you have your platform, your podcast independently, if you get with some of these advertising companies that sell podcasts, you'll still get like 70%, 75%. But it's just good ad revenue splits. And I mean, Roland, you know as well as I do, that's where the money's at.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, look, I've done radio. I did a midday morning drive show, WVON Radio in Chicago. I was on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. I had my own radio show as well. And look, worked at CNN, worked at TV One. But the reality is here, when I am having conversations right now, I mean, look, I locked down a 6-figure deal today with somebody. When I'm having conversations with somebody, ain't no middleman. They're not talking to the salesperson or the marketing person and the business people, and then they come over here and I get a little piece over here or get an appearance fee. No. I'm having a direct conversation about the money.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing radio for 23 years. I didn't start getting any piece of ad revenue until The Breakfast Club became a nationally syndicated radio show. So we've been syndicated for like 6-7 years now. So I never got any ad revenue in my whole 23 years of doing radio until, 6 years ago. So think about that. With a podcast network, these hosts of these podcasts are coming out the gate getting ad revenue. That's something that I didn't have the luxury of having when I first started in this audio business. So
it's also freedom. It's also freedom. And the reality is that you don't, you can put rules in place if you want to. But the reality is there are no rules. When you talk about the digital space, podcasting to me, or just like on the digital side, it's sort of like if you got a show on HBO and Showtime, whatever flows, flow. And then now if your audience says, we don't like all your cussing, then you can decide, hey, we're not going to do that. But it's the freedom, two things, freedom and flexibility. The two words that I've always lived by since I came into the business as a graduate of Texas A&M University, that when a company was limiting my freedom and my flexibility, that's when I said I got to bounce.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I love iHeart so much. I love iHeart because I've been there for almost a decade. It'll be a decade this December. And, they've always allowed me that. They've always allowed me that when it comes to, the guests that I want to have on the show, the conversations that we want to have on the show. They've never came and said, hey, y'all are just a hip-hop radio show, focus on that. It's like we stretch the gamut from social justice to politics to comedy to mental health and mindfulness to spiritual leaders, faith leaders. We're able to be creative and have that flexibility. And that's why I thought that they were the perfect partner for what I wanted to do with this podcast network.
There were it's always interesting when you start dealing with what happens in the whole social media space in terms of when people get caught up in beefs and all this sort of stuff like that. I posted the other day, I was like, look, I listen, you and I talk, we've talked about a number of other things offline over the last couple of years. I've done the Breakfast Club as well. When I commented the other day on Joe Budden, people were like, oh, here's my biggest problem. This is my biggest problem with all these other people who are out there who do all the talking. The reality is there are people in all of these spaces who do different things. Mm-hmm. Y'all shows on iHeart, guess what? That's cool. That's no different than Robin Roberts being on ABC. There are folks, look, my show, I'm independent. I'm independently owned. We've had independent record labels, and we've had individuals who've had record label deals. Master P had his own company, but had a distribution deal. Other folks had record label deals. What I'm trying to get our people to understand is to stop getting caught up in mess. Stop wanting to see him be spectators like, ooh, who fighting who, and to learn what people are doing who are talking about controlling their own fate. That, to me, is the most important thing. I just think there are a lot of people who just spend too much time on mess as opposed to, no. How are people moving things forward, no matter what lane you're operating in? That's important to me because what I'm seeing is in this moment, in the aftermath of George Floyd, this is the third Reconstruction. This is the moment where we should be saying of any moment in our lifetimes, no, we're demanding ownership and a much larger piece of the pie.
I agree with you 100%. Me and Reverend Barber talk about this being a new Reconstruction era. And I think that's the main thing we all have to do, right? Like you're either going to listen to one or two people. You're going to listen to the people who aren't doing it, try to tell you how to get it done, or you're going to listen to the people who are doing it, tell you how you can do it too. And guess what? Even if I tell you, you still may not do it because you're not me. You're not Roland Martin. Like our paths are different. Our experiences are different. The way we got to where we are now is different. So we all have our own individual leverage, and you have to use it. I'm not mad at the way anybody does anything. I think that sometimes, when you're a personality, a media personality, You get on your podcast, you get on your radio show, and we have conversations that we might need to be having amongst each other. And I think that's where that's where it gets tricky, because we're inviting everybody else in to conversations we should be having amongst each other, and we all do that, by the way. I might do it to Joe might do it to Gillian Wallow. Like, we all have. It's like discussing basketball. It's like, oh, this person got a deal over here, that person got a deal over here, this person's contract looks like this. It's just that we got to make sure we know what we're talking about if we're going to speak on certain things. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've had people who come to me and they say, well, man, you should be doing this, this, this. And I'm looking at them going, no. In fact, I mean, I had a very prominent individual who you and I both know, who said, man, this interview was great. You need to take these clips and break it apart and send it across the internet. And I was like, nah, we good. And he was like, yeah, but he's like, but young folks don't look at long clips. And I went, actually, this is our time spent viewing on our show. And I said, and this is the revenue that we're now generating from those very same clips, and how we've tripled it in the last 5 months. And the person was like, oh, damn. So I was like, yeah, in your mind that, and again, there are people who do short clips. That's what they do. They do the 30-second, 6-second. But the reality is, we purposely do a 2-hour show because our time spent listening is higher than some other people. We got people who are watching 9, 12, 15, 18-minute, 20-minute videos. So that dispels the notion. That's why I said, hey, if you want to do what you do, go right ahead. But trust me, it's working fine for us.
Yeah, is that something that person is doing themselves, or is that something they saw working for other people?
Yeah, I mean, they do it, but their motive is different.
Okay. I mean, YouTube is your platform, though, Roland. I mean, it depends. Like, if you're trying to, use your social media page to get people to come back to your YouTube, yeah, I can see why, they might ask you to, shorten the clips and put them on social media. But I know people come to you for YouTube. If that's the platform that, you're cultivating, you got to do it the way you want to do.
And what they don't realize is, with YouTube, the video needs to be at least 10 minutes, so we can drop 4 commercials in it. See, that's what it's the studying of the, and that's the thing that I want to talk to you about real quick, because I know you got to go. People need to be students of the business to learn the business, as opposed to getting caught up in, man, I got, like Instagram. I got 545,000 Instagram followers. Yeah, but Instagram has no monetization program. So you can load all your stuff on Instagram, but it's actually not making you money unless you have a product that you're selling or is driving you elsewhere. So it's not getting caught up in the hype of your numbers. It's how can you monetize this thing?
That is very true. I mean, what you said about studying the game is the key, because, what I like to do is I like to see what's missing in the marketplace. I don't like to do what everybody else is doing. I got 3 years ago, because I've always been a part owner of a podcast network, the Loudspeaker Network. Rest in peace, my man Combat Jack. Salute to my guy Chris Moreau. So I've always been a part owner for like the past 6 years in the Loudspeaker Network. So I was just literally just watching the landscape of what all of these various podcast networks were doing. So I saw what Gimlet was doing. I saw what Bill Simmons was doing with The Ringer. I saw what Anchor was doing. So when they started getting these $100 million deals, $200 million deals, I wasn't surprised, because I knew that they had all of this IP under their network. So I just sat back and started thinking to myself, like, man, why don't we have a black, podcast network? Like I think about BET in the 90s. I want this to be to the audio space what BET was to TV in the 90s. That was always my mindset when I was, developing this and putting this together. And I was just, it literally came from just studying the game and realizing, okay, that's what's missing in the marketplace right now.
Well, you're absolutely right. And in fact, it's so funny, Jay Feldman, my former EP, when we started this, Jay was like, Rolly, you should do audio podcasts. And I was like, nah. And he was like, why? And I said, well, actually, I created the first black news source audio podcast in 2005. Mm-hmm. And then I did a video podcast in 2006. And I said, I've already done it. And he was like, yeah, but that was a podcast in 1.0. I'm like, yeah, but I've already done it. I knew I wanted to create a video show with, to your point, nobody else was doing. And so I was like, if we're able to create this beachhead and then build it from there, then all of a sudden we're doing something that nobody else is doing. And that's really what the motivator was. And then what happened? Fox Soul comes out after that. Then ABC, CBS, all these people, NBC launches their own digital news deal. And so now, but we're still, again, the only ones that's black-owned, that's independent in the space. And that's the whole point. When you're able to carve out your niche, then you're able to build something. Final thoughts.
Yeah, first to market is very important. You know, I think today Amazon launched that they're doing a podcast network, and they have like DJ Khaled and Will Smith over there. And if I'm not mistaken, it's with LeBron James production company, you know, Spring Hill. You know, so I just feel like, you know, it's good to be first to market. You know, like I said, BET in the 90s is my motivation. I don't think we give Bob Johnson enough credit. You know,
Bob and Sheila Johnson.
Bob and Sheila Johnson. I mean, that's still to this day the largest black exit of any entrepreneur. I think it was like $3.2 billion.
Yeah, $3.3 billion. I'm gonna be breaking down next week though, because if you read Brett Pulley's book, BET should have been sold for about $10 billion plus. Because I'm gonna give this real quick. And I'm gonna just give you this, and probably because you have iHeart as a partner, this speaks to it. In the book, BET was getting $1,500 for a 30-second spot when MTV was getting $8,000. Sumner Redstone and Mel Karmazin said, "Oh, if we bought BET, we can now start getting $8,000." They were devaluing the black viewer compared to the white viewer on MTV. Had BET been getting the $8,000 instead of the $1,500, BET would have been worth 5 times more what they would have been generating from the advertising revenue. So the battle that we have right now, even with what you're launching and what I have, is to say to these ad agencies, don't y'all devalue the black customer like you have been doing. You pay fair market value. So in podcasting, don't say, well, because Joe Rogan's audience is white or Bill Simmons is white, they are more valuable than Charlamagne's audience or my audience. That's the next battle that we have to confront these agencies over.
Yeah, I think these ad agencies know now that black is gold. You know, back in the 90s, hip hop was still being kind of looked at as a niche thing, you know, as a flavor of the month kind of thing. So I think that's why, and don't get me wrong, they still do devalue, you know, the black dollar, but I think we have a lot more respect for it now. I think so. Yeah, especially right now in this current moment.
It's a little more respect, but the next piece, and trust me, we'll talk offline about this, is when it comes to getting those dollars. Look, $100 billion is spent every year when it comes to advertising. I'm asking the question, how much of that is going to black-owned media? Not black-targeted, black-owned media. Because the federal government spends $5 billion a year on advertising. Black media gets $35 million.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting?
Not even 1%.
These ad agencies they'll ask that question nowadays too. They want to make sure that the platform you're on is really black-owned.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
So congratulations on it. We'll be watching it. Good luck and chat soon.
Thank you, Roland.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Folks, got to go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding of services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.
Hi, I'm Shanice. You got just one vote, so use it.
All right, folks. Do we have, we did these interviews with various folks about the importance of voting. Do we have the Lisa Ray video ready? Okay, play it.
Let me say this. I've always voted because my mama made me to. But the first time I really gave a damn, honestly, Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
Yep.
92.
Yep.
So
I used to vote for who my mama voted for.
So growing up, that was practice. She voted. Mm-hmm. Did you ever go to the polls with her?
Yes.
When she voted? Mm-hmm. And so did she say, look, we're going?
She would make me sit and watch the different speeches that they would have throughout the time. And then I assume as a kid, I would go in and out of, what is this and why, da-da-da-da kind of thing. And then as I got older, she wanted to make sure that my vote counted. So it was like, come on. And it was like, okay.
All right, folks, bring our panel back, Robert, Lauren, as well as Scott. Y'all are there?
Yep. The
conversation we just had with Charlamagne is an important one because I continue to insist, Robert, that we have to control the narrative. And if we don't, we're going to be asking somebody else to tell our story.
Yeah, you're completely correct. And one of the things I think we have to remember is that America and Western civilization in general has a well-worn history of white people getting rich off of black intellectual property, off of black hard work, out of black art and music and dance and performance and intellectualism. And so if we're not able to step out and create platforms for ourselves, create indices for ourselves, just as Reverend Jackson did with the Rainbow Push Trade Bureau and many of the Saturday morning broadcasts, which was revolutionary at its time, to ensure that we control that narrative, we control the revenue, because then you can bring on black camera companies, then you can bring on black production companies, you can bring on black caterers, black limo services. So the economics of controlling your own narrative, controlling your own intellectual properties is always going to pay off more in the long run. You ain't going to get rich working nobody's job.
Lauren, the point I made about advertising is important because that's really how the business operates. And if we are being devalued and not getting our fair share, we can't grow. We can't build capacity. We can't hire more people. And so that's the thing. And what also has to happen is other black media companies can't be taken far less because that then sets the table. They say, well, we gave so-and-so that. I'm like, well, ain't my problem. They devalue themselves.
Yeah, so many companies negotiate from a position and negotiate against themselves and actually bring down the market value by accepting cheaper deals. And obviously, ownership and control is the entire ball game. We do in this country, African Americans, set the culture. We are the ones that create culture so many times and don't get paid for it. And I remember one time in the green room a few years ago. When the show was on TV One, there was a musician there. I think we were talking about barbershop. There was a few musicians in the green room, and I was trying to figure out why it was, with the technology that we have now, why it was anybody needs a record company. Because if you have your own, you used to be distribution was the reason, and you needed them for distribution and promotion. And now I'm not too sure why anybody needs a record company other than to take money from the artists to do all the work which has been the tradition of record companies in America.
Well, but that's it. Well, that's it. Well, first of all, and what they did was, remember, that was a point when you had a lot of record labels, but then the majors are like, oh, with Motown and others like, no, hold on. So we got to change the game. So now we're going to say, well, forget the music business. We're going to control the distribution. So if you saw that Master P special that was on BET, you remember, Master P had a record label, but he cut a distribution deal. Now, it was interesting watching all these white execs with, I think it was Priority Records, which was the distribution company. They made no music, but they controlled the distribution. And so Master P had to cut, and I was sitting there watching, and I was kind of like, why in the hell he got to cut a deal with them? And so that's the game. That's the game in terms of, same thing in movies, okay? People talk about, Tyler Perry got his own studio. No. Who controls the distribution of the product? Lauren, go ahead.
But I was just going to say that the distribution now is so easy because we were dealing with digital files, which I thought it was always funny that Apple kind of hoodwinked us into everything had to be controlled through the iTunes marketplace, if you will. Like it used to be, remember when the kid from Napster created that platform where anybody could download and listen to music, period. Of course, they sued him and they stopped him. Then they controlled it back into iTunes. But when you think about it, if you're as talented as Beyonce and Jay-Z, your distribution is a downloaded file. So I'm always wondering, like, why people don't just go around that. I don't know enough about the music business to know what the answer is.
No, I'll explain to you. I'll explain to you. And Scott, you're a lawyer. It is very simple. And that is this here. People want to congregate in certain places. And so what they've done is the distribution model today is where the people already are, okay? So now it's, if you're Apple, they have millions of these devices. So they have communities that are already built in. And they've made it easier for you simply to go, click, I bought it. And so the consumer's like, I don't want to have to go to here, to here, to here, to here. Can I just get it all in one place? But what I'm arguing, which is what I argued when I argued about this when I was talking about Boozy the other day, Scott, and Instagram. He's begging to get back on Instagram. I'm like, Boozy, this is real simple. If you actually take, because he said he was gonna pay Instagram $100,000 to let him back on their platform. I was like, Boozy, why don't you take that $100,000 and give it to a black developer, and you can actually create your own social media platform and tell your fans, come check me out right here. What they've done is, and trust me, now here's the deal. Somebody right now is watching, Scott, and they're saying, well, yeah, Roland, you're on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope for a short while. Because what you have to do is, which the artists have done, you get in, build your name up, all of a sudden you create the resonance. Now if you're Beyonce or Drake you actually don't need the record labels because you can actually create your own ecosystem. That's really what's at play. So they want to control the access by saying, we've got millions of eyeballs, it's easier over here. And that's why Apple is getting sued, because they're saying if you put any in-app purchases, we got to get 30%. And the companies are like, why in the hell I got to give you 30%?
Right. You know, this is a complex issue because we are so programmed as Black people to believe that bigger is better, or the majority's ice is cold. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to lead and build, and what you're talking about, Roland, you've been talking about even before it became popular, you got to believe in yourself, take that risk, right? You had a post a week or two ago about this show and how 2 or 3 years ago you said, I got to go. I got to do this now. I've been wanting to do it. And we have to be fearless as entrepreneurs, right? And be aggressive and believe that this market, Black or white, will support us if we have a great concept, precept, or a great product, if you will. We got to protect it. And then Black people got to support each other. See, we still have this inferiority complex when it comes to entrepreneurship. Not all of us, but a lot of the consumerism that Black people engage in. People ask you all the time, well, you know, you're not on one of the networks, you're not on cable. Well, you don't want to be on cable. You got a great product right here. You get any guest you want to come on, and you got a great following. But you got to be fearless and take that leap of faith, right? Obviously, you believe in God, but you got to do that if you really believe in yourself. And so often we say, well, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to do that. But you got to be willing to take the risk.
Yep.
And so many of us don't take that risk, or Black people think they shouldn't follow you or watch you because you're not on one of the networks, right? People get their news, or the majority, from the platform, other platforms. They're not just 3 or 4 news stations anymore, and they're not just, who cares about the cable stations when you can get stuff online? I got twin daughters, 25 years old, 26 years old, and they'll tell you in a minute, I said, where you get your news from? Well, I do Instagram, I get it off the internet, blah, 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 Twitter, Facebook. That's where the majority of people are getting their news. I don't even get a newspaper anymore. I don't know how many other people do. And so you got to be fearless. But Black people have to support us in these various platforms. And we got to be fearless in what we set up and believe in ourselves.
Yep, that's it. Scott, Robert, Lauren, I certainly appreciate you being on our panel today. Thank you so very much. Folks, I just want to read some of the letters here. We got this letter here from Rosalind Fluker-Powell. She said, just happened upon your show in the last 3 months. Since I now have unlimited interest on my smartphone, very informative, educational, thought-provoking, and entertaining. Yep. I am addicted, so I certainly appreciate it. Yep. We got a note here unsigned. Simply said, Mr. Martin, thank you. Also, this is from Larry and Gwen Mitchell. Thank you for opening my eyes to what's going on in the world around me. We have joined the Bring the Funk fan club. This is Zeke Shabazz. Roland, say hello to your panel. I watch your show daily, and it's good to know that your voice will never be silenced. By the way, the beginning of this very short letter is saying, "What's up, Roland?" Because it said, "Pup." Just keep doing what you're doing. Talk to you later. Bye. We have a note here. This is from Brenda DST Perryman. She's a Delta. I pray this will help with your movement. Stay strong, my brother. And it's just simply, card says, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love this here from Erna Lisa Lovett and her daughter, Nisha Lovett. I'm sending $100 for membership for myself and my daughter, Naisha. She is 26 years old. I need her listening to your broadcast and become more active in her Blackness. I've been watching you for 2 years. I love what you're doing. Thank you for your passion. Continue to allow God to use you. And so she's, so again, I certainly appreciate that letter there. Let's see here. Elton Hooper Jr. With StopTheInjusticeNow.org, founder CEO. Keep on keeping on with your good work for the Black community. This is a short note. Thank you from Detroit. So we appreciate that. To Mr. Martin, I'd like to thank you for all the great unfiltered shows. Love them every night. When I'm at work, I have time to watch them. Keep up the great work. Yo, you better do your work. Stay on the crazy-ass white folks, the ones who think that we're supposed to take crap from them. Thanks again, Joseph Leith, again, who contributed about $150 to our Bring the Funk fan club. Last one I'm going to read today. James Bond Sr. I watch your Black News show every night. I really appreciate listening to Black News and all the professional men and women that you invite. I'm very proud of what you do for the Black community. I used to get so angry when the white news did not give the Black community all the news. Please keep up the good work, and I'm going to continue to watch your show. I've learned so much from the news show. I'm donating $25 to help you keep this news show going. Again, thank you very much. Folks, I appreciate all of these notes. I'm going to read some more tomorrow. If y'all want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, more than 12,000 of you have joined our fan club. Our goal is to ask you to give $50 each. If you're on YouTube, you can give right there on YouTube. $50 each, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Your dollars make it possible for us to do this. Also, I want to let y'all know the 3 presidential debates will begin this month and in October. Your dollars will help us. We're going to have debate coverage of those debates. So you don't have to, you can ignore those cable news shows for post-debate analysis. We're going to do it right here to give our perspective and our analysis. That's why your dollars matter. Cash App, $, Cash App /$ RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me /R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You can send a money order to New Vision Media, NU Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. And to join our fan club, if you want to, we want you to, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications so when we go live, it notifies you. Be sure to watch our clips on YouTube as well. That generates dollars for our show. Again, if you're on YouTube, nearly 4,000 of you right now, y'all can give right there on YouTube, or y'all can go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can pay using a Square credit card as well, or PayPal, Venmo, or Cash Out. Let me give some shout outs here. These are the people who have given on Venmo, $50 or more. You get a personal shout out. Robert Young, Karen and Calvin Kidd, Renee Allen Fulton, Terrence Jackson, Stephen Franklin, Sandra Nixon, Nicole Alexander, April Motley, Ty Carter, Pashta Tate, Preston Cherry, Kimberlyn Hunter, Danielle Cumberbatch, Janice Martin, Jean Patrice Willoughby, Emmy, Bob Manuel, Donna Gibson, Latrice Reed, Joycelyn Williams, Robert Young, Rick Nolan, Pamela Jones, Juanita Wiggins, Adrian Stevenson. These are the folks who sent checks in. $50 or more, you get a personal shout out. Gene Howell, Romilly Adams, Fendrick Bush, Ange Glee Love, Dolores Jones, Edna Sanders, Kimberly Nash Williams, Everett Tatris, Linda Graham Swanson, Delbert Hudson, Roderick Ballard, Lorraine Calhoun, Gail Artis, Denise Isaac Tolliver, Jerry Connell Williams, Beverly Caldwell, Carol McKee, Brenda Johnson, Sidar Printing, James Gurin, Jerry Lummings, David Famous, the Jack Yates class of 1972. You didn't put your name on it. You just put Jack Yates class of 1972. My alma mater, I appreciate it. I'm class of 87, though. Jerry Arhen, Chandra Drayton, Michelle Hammonds, Douglas Carrington, Susie Banks, Randy Dotson, Mary Robinson, Sharon Rogers, Billie Jean Fegan, Lorene Calhoun, Calvin Cunningham, and Greta Master. And so I thank all of you who have contributed to our Bring the Funk fan club. Thank you so very much. Hey, Henry, zoom out. So I shouted out Michelle Hammonds, y'all. So I wore a shirt yesterday from Tammy Green. So Michelle Hammonds made this T-shirt, and I'm wearing it today. I'm gonna go ahead and just stand up. So, all right, so go ahead and zoom in on it. Zoom in on me. So you see what Michelle did was, so Michelle had this shirt made. She put roll up a hashtag, Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital News here at the top. You see here, she put, these are all the slogans I use on the show. So Bring the Funk, What the Hell, Tried to Tell You, The Right Kind of Black, Soledad talked about that. It's About Damn Time. So Michelle, thank you very much for sending me a couple of these shirts. I certainly appreciate it. And of course, the last one you see right over here is how we're gonna end the show. I'll see y'all guys tomorrow.